Morning, Paul. This would be a brief snippet for something like Toastmasters. The title of my talk today is 10%. I had this therapist when I was in alcohol rehab. His name was Bill. He was a cool enough guy. He wore cowboy boots, cowboy hat, smoked a pipe. He had a picture, I think, of Carl Jung in his office. All kinds of interesting books. But him and I didn't see eye to eye very well. We rubbed each other the wrong way. He kept telling me that I was thinking too much, that I didn't just accept all the steps at face value. And I kept telling him that I needed to think through why I had drank alcohol to excess for 30 years. I needed to get inside my head. So over the term of our sessions, we kind of went back and forth. I thought it was okay, but again, we didn't have the greatest of chemistry. One Friday morning in 2002, I sat waiting for him, a little more nervous than usual. This was the last day that I would see him. I was finishing rehab that day, and this was going to be the last time. So Bill came, opened the door, and we sat down, and without much conversation, he just pushed a piece of paper across to me. He said, "Read it." And I thought, before that, I thought, here I am, I'm graduating from rehab, yay. Look what I've accomplished. And I thought to myself, this is going to be great, glowing. I looked at it. Diagnosis, alcoholism, family history, alcoholism, all the way to the bottom until I got to prognosis. The prognosis said 10% chance of long-term sobriety. And I remember feeling irritated that day and even said to him, "Bill, what do you mean by this?" And he just said, "You've got a lot of risk factors. You've got family history, you've got brother, you've got the wrong element around you. You're going to struggle." And we said goodbye that day, shook his hand. He said, "Go to meetings, etc., and went out the door. So for all of you, have you had an experience where you were told that the odds were against you? That you couldn't do something, or it would be very difficult to achieve it? How did all of you respond to that? Let me tell you how I responded. A couple months later, I did the exact opposite of what Bill told me to do. I walked into the scene of the crime, a bar called Mickey's. Every Wednesday night for a long time, I would sing there like Frank Sinatra or whatever you want. I sang karaoke, I drank there sometimes late into the night. I was a regular. So I wanted to go back and just kind of see. So I walked in the door. I saw John, the bartender, and he said, "Hey, Scott, how you doing? I haven't seen you around." I sat down, bellied up to the bar, and before I could even sit down, he had slid a bottle of ice-cold Coors Light in front of me. I looked down at that, and I thought about the 10%. I said to him, "John, I don't drink anymore. I need a Diet Coke." So I slid it away from him, and I sat drinking the Diet Coke. And that day I reflected on 3 things I've learned through my journey thus far. 1, who do I want to be? When I made the decision to stop drinking about 3 months previous, I knew that I wasn't where I wanted to be. I struggled for over 30 years, and I knew that if I didn't stop, that disaster would probably occur. And that last morning that I sat there contemplating stopping, I remember the voice of my conscience, or whatever it might be, saying to me, either you stop or you die. The next step I had to take was to create an action plan. And the action plan was to get up, walk to the hospital, and admit that I was an alcoholic. So for the first time in my life, I surrendered myself. Check me in. I did. And I went through 3 weeks of rehab. The third lesson I learned from this was accept who you are. And I realized that day that the gift that Bill had given me was actually a great one. He challenged me by saying that the odds were against me. And I began to believe that rather than the glass being 90% empty, the glass was actually 10% full. The story of the 10% continued forward for me. Dozens of times over the next decade, I would pull out the wrinkly old sheet and look at it. 10% chance of long-term sobriety. And what I learned about that lesson, which was challenging me to step up, was that overcoming the odds is a state of mind. Every day I had to choose to embrace who I am and not to step back to what I had been before. So one of the secrets, or one of the lessons I learned that's helped me to become successful, was to embrace 10%. Thank you.